fed up with Lucian politicians. Both yellow and red is pure frustration. Y'all send me to suffer in a stadium over 14 years of gross neglection.
It's man's greed planting the seed of his own destruction. Man's greed, oh yes indeed, causing strife in this nation.
He say he search everywhere, can't find one worthy out there. He have to lament, not one fit to run competent. He canvassed the convention, none met his expectation. All over him went, not one candidate's competent. So he laments.
We want to welcome to Calabash TV. We know him as Hammer in the Calypso arena. Mallet Edwards, who is a member of the management team of Fire ONE. Good to have you here at Calabash TV.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fanners, for having me, in this very august environment.
and the name is Bernard. So, yeah. Yes, we're just coming out of one festival and we're heading into another festival, a very short transition period. Calypso is about to happen and you're here representing Fire ONE. First of all, give us a sense of where we're at in terms of Fire ONE, your preparations for 2023 season.
Well, as you would appreciate, Fire ONE came on the scene just recently in 2018, and between 2018 and now we have had the ill effects of the whole corona virus matter affecting us.
We don't have no flu again. We don't have no flu again. You are red, you tired, body pain, people afraid of you. You can breathe, you can smell, you can taste. Must be that disease.
The Fire ONE in 2023 is back on the scene, and we are once again coming out with fire in 2023. And we had our first session yesterday, our first rehearsal. And if I'm to judge the flow of the season based on what I saw and heard yesterday during our rehearsal, I would like to warn our Calypso fans that they're in for a treat this year from the fire of Fire ONE.
And the fire is still burning.
And the thirst for good Calypso will be quenched during the deliveries delivered by the Fire ONE Tent.
Obviously, you're defending the crown, the monarch, as well. Talk to us about you just mentioned that you started rehearsals. Give us a sense of the vibe, the level of excitement in the camp.
Well, yesterday, those artists who rehearsed yesterday, they seem to be very, very, very happy within themselves. They seem ready. In fact, they were actually enjoying themselves as they rehearsed yesterday, even though it was the first session. I mean, we had a ball yesterday in that first session of rehearsal. So I sense that our artists are, in fact, ready, and they ought to be ready. No pun intended, because we also have a Calypso called Ready. We ought to, after a year, they ought to be ready. And yesterday was a good example of readiness, a good example of confidence, a good example of preparation and preparedness for the issuance of a highly successful performance in 2023 coming from the Fire ONE Tent. Mm-hmm. And our cast is increased by 2 this time. Last time we had 10. This time we have 12, with the new addition of a young and upcoming vocalist by the name of Akeo, and with the return of Ali Cat, who we missed last time. And the cast is as follows: Akeo, in alphabetical order, Akeo, Ali Cat, Ashanti, Bingo, Desral, Educator, Manchus, Mighty Sizzler, Prosper, Reddy, Robbie, and Trish, which makes a cast of 12. We will be also missing Solange, because as you know, Solange has been with us from inception. But Solange is having a couple of challenges which she's trying to deal with. We're not sure if she'll be able to overcome those challenges and then grace us with her presence. But right now we're not sure whether she'll be here or not. But in terms of the persons who have undertaken to perform this year, those are the 12 we have.
And in the names you mentioned, we were just speaking before we started the interview, Trish has her son in the vision as well.
Akeo is the son of Trish. And I think it's the first time we're going to have a mother and son performing on the same stage and in the same tent. I'm sure that the mother will be mothering the son as he distinguishes himself on stage.
Definitely something to look out for, and maybe see that when they perform together as well. That will be quite exciting.
It's all in keeping with the recent Mother's Day.
Yes, that's right. And it's Youth Month. We're just coming out of Youth Month, but youth is being celebrated throughout the year. Talk to us about the backing band. Who is the backing band this time around?
The backing band, well, first of all, the backing band is led by Gregory Piper, who is both our musical director and the leader of the band. So he dovetails between leading the band at the same time assisting us with the product. He assists us with the construction of the product. He assists us with the improvement of the product. He assists us with the delivery of the product. So he's very instrumental both in terms of leading the band and in terms of assisting us with the enhancement of the product.
So give us an idea. I know we came out of COVID, and last year was a kind of a dry run after COVID. But give us some sense of, 6 months leading into the season. What preoccupies the tents?
First of all, what preoccupies us is whether or not we're going to have a cast. Sometimes, because you're not sure if the same artists who were with you last time will be with you this time.
St. Lucia is a peaceful place. We have no military base. So pack all of them on a plane and send them to fight in Ukraine. Once your gun be good and the police off you go.
What must I do?
What must I do?
To gain a respect? All I have done, I just can't regret. Does it depend on who that I know to be the winner of your Calypso show? Telling people I am your king, but your golden crown I just cannot win.
Party before country, I am for that. Ignoring crime and poverty,
I am for that.
being a dead horse for glory, I am for that.
Don't blame the police. They're working hard to keep the peace. Don't blame the police when you raise your child at risk.
Will you have any new persons being added to the tent? So during that period prior to the first rehearsal, we are calling around to see who we have. We are calling around to see who is interested in becoming a member of the Fire One. We are also ensuring that those persons who say they are ready do in fact have 2 songs ready. The songs have already been written in terms of the music and so forth, and each of the artists who claims to be ready is in fact has in fact done his or her homework in terms of working with his or her writer and working with his or her music writer and songwriter and that kind of thing. And there's some sit-down session between the writer and the artist, and between the person who writes the music and the artist, because many a time we have found over the years a number of our artists come to the band house and they're hearing the music for the first time, and then having problems as to making the entry into the actual performance. And at times we have found situations where Piper also may have to find himself having to rewrite certain aspects of the music so as to make it easy for the artist to make his or her entry into the song, which could be a little taxing, or send the artist back to that person who wrote his or her music and suggest to him or her that to make certain changes to accommodate the vocalists being able to start the song. So those are the kind of fun, rudimentary activities that we get involved in prior to the actual start of the rehearsal.
So in a case like that, would like a demo thing? Should Calypsonians now get into the habit of...
I don't think we produce a demo tape. But the demo tape, they say the demo tape costs money. They have to go to some musician, maybe a guitarist or a keyboardist, to help them to record that demo, and they have to pay that person for that particular service. So it's kind of tough for the Calypsonian in that regard, especially if the Calypsonian is not as musically minded as he or she ought to be, But so far we haven't had too much of that kind of issue with our artists.
From the list you give, they seem to have a little gender imbalance. It's not unique to Fire One. You mentioned 3 ladies who are participating.
Ladies.
Is an effort being made to, and I know Cheryl is leading the tent as a lady herself, and to get more females?
We have to get more females involved in our tent, and that's the role that Cheryl has undertaken to perform as time passes, because I really, personally, I would love to see more of a balance between the genders in our tent. I know you have all kinds of ramifications and computation nowadays about gender, but I'm talking specifically about male-female gender.
Do you notice, just your interaction, that are the female writers in your camp? Because I know most of it is mainly male. It's a male-dominated.
Cheryl writes.
She writes as well.
Cheryl writes.
But is she writing for your cast? Is she any member of your cast?
She writes. I think this year they did some writing for Ashanti, and I think she also has been doing giving Trish some assistance as well in that regard.
Okay, so then some knowledge is being passed on as well.
Right.
Okay, so that's good in terms of... So you said you had a rehearsal yesterday, and I guess it's still going need to ask you, but from what you got just from one day of rehearsal, a sense of some of the themes. Is it a year rich for themes?
Okay, we have a mixture of... So far, there's a mixture of social commentary and sort of up-tempo type, carnival-related type music. That's what we have been hearing so far. And there's also that, which I found very interesting, where at least two of the artists, they are singing what you call a topical type calypsos and a very lively beat. Very, very lively beat. So it's almost like a kind of road march kind of thing, but with a message, which was very, inspiring yesterday for me. That is that because normally the social commentary is very slow and temporized and almost funereal, so to speak. But the guys are now doing a very lively approach to what could be making fun of serious situations, which I found yesterday as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of material.
No.
In terms of topics and so on. That's in abundance.
Of course not.
The cup overflowing in that area. So give us an idea of the dates now. When are you likely to do your opening?
Our opening night is Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. That's our opening night.
At the Cultural Center?
At the Cultural Center.
You have any shows from outside of the center, or everything is based at the center?
Everything is based at the center. A lot of it has to do with the fact that sponsorship is limited. The government is sponsoring 2 shows per tent. So once we complete our first tent showing, we go straight into quarterfinals.
Wow.
Which is a little tough. But if you want to have more than one, you can have all the shows you want. But you have to take care of the extra shows yourself. And to do that, it would require sponsorship or some millionaire, like Bernard, for example, is sponsoring our tent in that regard.
Well, there's a Bernard at Distillers who is living in France, so I can probably try and reach out to him for you.
So that's the situation, and it's tough on the artists across the board, because after your first showing, you have to move into competition mode, which doesn't give you enough of a lead time to prepare yourself for competition. And that, in my humble estimation, can also impact negatively on the quality of the product during that first order of the competition, the quarterfinals.
Does it also take the fun out of it? Because you go to the tents to have fun. If you have just one night of fun, what fun is that?
And apart from that too, it also forces the Calypsonian to use the tent as preparation for competition, as opposed to using the tent to entertain.
And to get accustomed to the stage and to...
Right, so the Calypsonian is now there focusing on how can I use these 2 songs to prepare myself for a competition which takes place in maybe a week's time or 2 weeks' time, as the case may be. And that, in my humble estimation, really places a damper on the value of tent.
What kind of conversations can be had to address this? Because obviously, even in sport and everything else, you have warm-up matches, there's so much that you have to put into before you get into a serious competition. What kind of conversations can we have?
Sponsorship. Sponsorship, or if we can get our artists to find creative ways of raising funds between August of one year and April of the following year, then we should be able to take care of ourselves in terms of financing a couple of additional shows, and maybe have some, as opposed to relying 100% on a sponsor, you can have some co-financing between ourselves and a potential sponsor, because it's okay to cover our tent for a particular show, it's going to cost X dollars. So far we have X minus Y. Could you assist us with Y?
Can there be a conversation on government investing a little more into, because it's a national competition, it's a national festival. Can there be a conversation where the government is asked to invest?
That conversation can be had, but government also is investing in I think other aspects of the carnival. I'm not sure if they invest, if there's any investment in the carnival parade. I doubt it, because they have their own sponsors. But it's something which we can probably discuss with the overall management people who oversee Calypso and various aspects of carnival music, Calypso and soca, as the case may be.
Because I was about to ask you about soca now, because we know in Trinidad the international soca was cancelled in Barbados as well, the major soca competition. In your case, I know you mentioned Manchester. I'm not sure who else is there doing soca.
He's the only one doing soca music as far as I know.
Wow.
He's the only one.
So that's a challenge in itself, because that means soca itself is on the threat as well.
And he does I think he does for the most. No, he does both. He does both the
Power.
I think Desmond too.
Desmond can, and he has before.
Yeah, before. Desmond did it last time.
I mean, all the guys can get to it. I mean, the educator can do it as well. But in terms of dedicated soca artists, I don't think Manchester is participating in the.
No, he's not.
Right.
But he's a dedicated soca artist, and I get the impression that the soca is also suffering just like Calypso in terms of its outreach, in terms of its reach post the season, the post-season reach of both Calypso and because one gets the impression that all the authentic Calypsonian has to look forward to is the crown.
At some point, we will need to have, because of your vast experience in Calypso writing and as a performer, so we'll want to have a conversation with you in terms of where we ought to be going. We'll have that conversation during the season in terms of looking at the developmental side of Calypso.
Definitely. I would love to get involved in that kind of discussion.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to talk, since you mentioned Israel, in terms of, I'm sure you've interacted with him as they get ready. He has to defend. It's always a pressure to defend. How is he handling that pressure?
Well, all I know is that he is getting ready to defend. And I'm told that he will be defending. I'm even told that he has to.
He has no choice. He has legacy to live up to. Sure. But for a young person, I'm sure, well, he has a lot of strong people around him, but that must be a lot of pressure for a young person because he has his father's legacy to live up to. He can't let down that legacy, plus he has to build his own.
What I found in my limited contact with him, I find that he's able to balance that seriousness of Calypso with his own love for fun,
right,
and his own enjoyment for music and matters of a cultural nature. You know, he appears to be a very fun-loving kind of guy who, as a result, doesn't seem to be to become too flustered by the pressures of having to defend, for example. He's taking things in their stride, so to speak. I'm sure he's almost ready.
Well, he's ready to fire on all cylinders. So we can expect quite an exciting season. Well, we're happy you're here just to update us on what's happening at Fire One. Just again, give us a reminder of the date for your opening night.
The opening night is Saturday, June 3rd, and we expect to have a full house on that night. Come and see what Fire One has ready in store for you. We won't be burning down the cultural center, but we will be creating some steam within the confines of the cultural center.
And as you mentioned, being ready, there's also Ready who is...
Ready is also ready, with a readiness.
Right, and Trish and her son, that will be an interesting...
Trish and son, mother...
attraction as well.
Mother and son combination. And mother competing
against the son.
Not against him, with the son.
Yes. It'll be interesting to see if they have to fight for a spot to the quarterfinals. So we'll see. It'll be fun. Trish always enjoys Calypso.
We hope you'll be there in live and living color.
Yes, certainly. So we want to thank you so much for being here, for sharing knowledge with us, information on this year's season for Fire One. And like I said, we'll have you back for us to have a discussion on the way forward for Calypso.
And so always is wonderful talking with you, Bernard, and listening to you, learning from you with all the ideas that you shared with me prior to the interview, which we can also work with, and which lessons which I will be taking with me from my discussion with you, both prior and during this interview. So I'm indeed grateful that you have me here with you and giving Fire One through me some exposure.
Yes,
thanks a lot.
Most definitely. We look forward. We'll be there in the tents with you, and the fans will be coming out the 3rd of June for Fire One at the National Cultural Center. But once we get into the end of May, it's smooth sailing till I think July 8th is the final, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Where we'll see the defense.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate it as always, and look forward to seeing you again.
Anytime. I'm indeed grateful.
Excellent.
All right.